Hey, fellow reefers. Salty Steve here. So I'm going to be honest right off the bat. I'm terrible about continuing videos. I've been in the hobby roughly about 20 plus years. Anything from 180s down to nanos. There are obviously 120s in there, a few 65s because that's honestly my favorite size tank. As long as I'm running a sump. So you know, it's hard for me to videotape these tanks as they progress. As much as I love them, I got to be better about sharing my experiences. So here we are. Got out of the hobby. I had a beautiful 65 running down in what is now the cinema room. I wanted to build a theater room in the basement of our house. And I was also getting a little overwhelmed. My daughter was in her senior year of high school. You know, single parent, trying to do everything on your own, obviously working full time plus extra side jobs. Got a little overwhelmed, got frustrated. Tank was doing great. It was nothing on the tank side outside of your daily or weekly maintenance. It just got overwhelmed. So I let it go. Then a good friend of mine let me have this Nuvo Fusion 20-gallon aquarium. You know, I love him for it, but at the same time, you got me back in the hobby. Big props out to Josh. If he ever watches this, I don't know, dude. I don't know how I feel about you right now. Because here we go again. No, I'm kidding. It's something I love. You know, if you're into this hobby, you'll understand it's a love-hate relationship. But inevitably, the love outweighs the hate. So, all right, let's get into it. If you want to see more videos, you're going to have to hit that subscribe button, because if nobody's watching them, then why am I even wasting my time taping them instead of enjoying what I'm creating? So we're going to get into the basic setup of this aquarium right now and a little further into what I'm doing to get it going. And then hopefully within 10 minutes, we'll be done. So anyway, all right. Nuvo Fusion 20-gallon all-in-one system. I've got about 25 pounds of live sand in there. I've got roughly only about 15 pounds of live rock. I didn't want to overwhelm it with rock because I think it looks tacky. And obviously, if you're going to have any fish in an aquarium, you want to give them some swimming space. So that's where we're at. I will add maybe 2 small pieces of live rock here in a couple weeks. Right now, I'm doing a fishless cycle, but I will get a few pieces of live rock and try to seed the tank with some coralline algae. Normally what I'll do is I'll scrape off the coralline algae, I'll grind it down into a fine powder, and then I will turn the pumps off. I will pour it above the rocks mostly. You know, obviously the spores are going to go everywhere, but I try to do that. Give it about 15 minutes. Let the spores have a chance, not much of a chance, but a chance to attach to the rock. And then we just wait from there. So what I'm currently running in this system, I took out the stock pump. I am running 2 MaxiJet 1200s for my return pumps. I'm trying to avoid having any wave makers. I love MP10s, MP40s, you know, for any of Vortex wave makers. I absolutely love them. I've never had any trouble with them. So it's nothing against that. I just don't like in a Nano how the wave makers can clutter up the aquarium. So to combat that, normally on a Nano, what I will do is the Innovative Marine spin stream nozzles. They create random water movement or random flow, whatever you want to call it. They are noisy for, well, some people get lucky. 24 hours, they quit making noise, the gears break in. For me, it's usually about a month, and I am meticulous about sound. I hate hearing all the extra noises. over the sound of the water. So it is utter torture for me to have to listen to these things. Thankfully, it's in my dining room, right? But we have an open floor plan, so the dining room is attached to the living room. So to get away from it, I'll normally either go to the cinema room or put on my headset while I'm playing some online gaming, whatever. Right now, as far as any filter media in the back chambers, I am running nothing other than my marine pure balls. I don't want the nitrifying bacteria that I'm creating by doing a fishless cycle to attach to any filter media that I'm not going to leave in the tank. Because normally what I do is the first few days, your sand's dirty, your rock's dirty, even though you may have spent the time to wash it all off. The first few days I do run filter floss to trap all those particles that I can. And then in a few days, after about 3 days, I take it out. That's giving it time for the water to get to the correct temperature. All that before I start my fishless cycle. If you are going to run a nano tank, all right, you think some people, for you new people, you think, oh, smaller tank, much easier. That is not the case. The dilution ratio is so minuscule with a nano. Things can change very, very quickly. And we all know instability in a reef aquarium or even a saltwater aquarium, but more on the reef side. Instability can be one of your big factors that cause problems. So if I can suggest getting anything that you may be thinking, I don't need it yet, get an ATO. Get an auto top off. Yeah, right now mine, I've got on there, I'm literally running a 5-gallon bucket, which is, beautiful until I get the reservoir. But the reservoir isn't needed. But I did want the auto top off because I'm trying to keep as much stability, even from day one in this aquarium. Stability is key and patience is key. So if you don't have patience, you're either going to learn patience or you're going to learn what headache is. That is what this hobby is about. So that being said, that's my little words of advice, especially with a nano. If you want to be stubborn and you want to add water in, every day, maybe sometimes twice a day, depending on your evaporation factor, then that's your choice. To each to their own, however you go about it, but that is just a suggestion. I am currently running just a 100-watt heater. It's a Haiger heater. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce the name, but I've had no problems with the Haiger heaters. It was short enough to fit in my return chamber, which thankfully, you can't even see it in there really. It's a little on the left side if you can barely see it. It is one of the precise heaters. I run my heaters at 77 degrees instead of 78, just in case there's fluctuation. I like to stay between 76 and 78. So, obviously 77. That gives me 1 degree up, 1 degree down. I'm still within my wanted temperature. A lot of people say 78, but let's be honest, it kind of depends on your inhabitants. And plus with the light that I'm going to be running, even with the cooling fan on and being LED, I will be running a Radeon Gen 5 XR15 for the time being. These lights I love. If you understand what you're doing with them, then you're not going to just go blindly into it. Par meter's great when using any kind of light. If you can get your hands on a par meter, whether it's from a local fish shop, renting one online, whatever you got to do, take a picture. This is what I normally do. I will take a straight on picture of my aquarium, just like this. And then I'll print that picture out. And then I'll rent a par meter. And then I will take dozens, if not more, measurements to know where I'm at. That way I know I've got a good idea, because flow in this tank is going to be hard to know exactly where, we know where the high flow areas are going to be, medium and low, but like with having those spin streams, they constantly revolve. So my flow areas constantly revolve. So that'll be, I think, my biggest area where I'm gonna struggle is putting corals in the proper flow areas because of the random flow generators. So anyway, long story short, if I could tell you guys to wait on anything, if you're like, man, I really don't want to get an ATO, I can't afford it right now because I really want this light, or I really want this, or again, back to patience. One thing is, you don't need a light. You don't need a light. You shouldn't even have a light, in my opinion, running until you've had this tank going for at least a month. And when I say at least a month, honestly, longer couldn't hurt. I have indirect light coming from the sliding glass door over here. So when I put my first couple fish in there, they're going to have light. They don't need the Radion on. The Radion will come into play whenever I'm getting ready to start dabbling in corals. And the longer you leave it off, I'm not going to say you're going to avoid the ugly phase, because we all know, but in my opinion, it lessens it. The more patient you are, the better you're going to be. You're not going to come, nobody's going to come into this hobby, or even veterans, they're not going to come in there and be like, this is the perfect way to do it. You won't have to deal with this, this, and this, and this. You might get opinions on that, but let me tell you, find one person that you respect and you think that their knowledge is something that you're going to follow, and look at their aquariums and follow that person. Don't follow, hundreds, and you're going to get so many different opinions. If you see somebody that's successful, then try to mimic that if that's what you want to do. So that being said, right now we're doing a fishless cycle. We're using Dr. Tim's ammonium chloride and Dr. Tim's all-in-one. This normally for me is roughly a week to 2 week cycle to get the nitrifying bacteria built up. That is why you didn't see any filter floss or any kind of filter media back there outside of my marine pier balls. Because what I'm doing is I am trying to build up the nitrifying bacteria on the substrate, the live rock, and my marine pier balls, everything that's going to stay in the tank. If you put filter socks in there and floss or whatever you want, as soon as you pull those out and wash them, all that bacteria you've created on those specific things, it's gone. And you might have a harder second cycle. So that's my opinion. When I first put it up, my deal is, what I do is I'll set the tank up, and I'll put filter floss in there, and I'll put filter pads, and I'll run it for 3 days at least. I'll stir up the sand a little bit. I'll do, blow off the rocks. I'm trying to minimize as much of that dust out of the tank for the first 3 days. That's all I'm doing, is I'm trying to clean stuff. Even after washing stuff off, you're going to still have, fine particulates in there that you're trying to get out. So that's what I do. I do that. And then after day 3, I remove any of the media out of the back, filter floss included, socks if you run them. Never been a real big fan of socks because, let's be honest, they're great if you're on top of them. Me personally, I'd rather just throw a filter pad in there, and after dinner each day or every other day, I pull that filter pad out or filter floss, and I wash off the pad and change out the floss. Takes me all of about 5 minutes. The socks, I used to have them. I'd throw them in the washer, and wait for them to get done, and, had some to change in and out while I'm dripping stuff all over the floor. No, thank you. Okay, back to the tank. So right now I'm doing Dr. Tim's fishless cycle. Real simple. First day, you put 4 drops per gallon of actual water of the ammonium chloride in. You add an entire bottle of Dr. Tim's all-in-one nitrifying bacteria. Me, 20-gallon setup, maybe 15 gallons of water in there. So I did a 30-gallon equivalent of the all-in-one bacteria because, let's be honest, the more you put in, it's not going to hurt. It's the exact opposite with the ammonium chloride. You need to follow the directions to a T. I've heard of people adding ammonium in every day. And what that does is it causes your nitrites to spike. So you add, from the beginning, you want to add, 4 drops per gallon equivalent and test the next day. That's what I did. And I use, a lot of you will use drop kits or maybe even the dips, the little, paper sticks you dip in. Me currently, I'm lucky enough in my profession to be able to use a Hawk SL1000. So this was my readings this morning. So you can kind of just see, you know, where I'm at this point. But the big thing is you don't want to add in the ammonium every day. And that machine I love. It's actually it's a nice machine, and I'm lucky to have access to it. So, and it just takes little key cards and the key cards, blah blah blah. So it works great for my needs. But the other tests work just fine to get you in the ballpark. So what I do, like I was saying, ammonium chloride. The first day, what's suggested, whole bottle of Dr. Tim's all-in-one. Second day, you test, leave it. Okay? Third day, you test. And then you see if your ammonia is below 1 part per million. You want to add the equivalent of 2 parts per million, which is 4 drops per gallon of actual water. And they will tell you will not get to 2 parts per million ammonia with the nitrifying bacteria. But if you're adding ammonia in every day, you're going to spike it. So every other day, follow the directions like it says, test. Be very conscious that you need to test. Don't go in there blind. For me, yesterday, I was at a 0.9 on the ammonia. I added 3 milliliters of ammonia into my tank, and you see it was below 0.9. So again, tomorrow morning I will test, and then I will add some more to try to get it to that 1 part per million, but not going to overdo it. And you do this, for me, usually it's about 9 days until you see your ammonia and your nitrite staying under 0.2, I believe is what they recommend, which, perfect. So that's what I'll do. And then I'll get a couple fish, and then we'll go through another short cycle. And at that point, I'll get, some live rock, just small golf ball size pieces, and I will scrape off the coralline algae and turn it into a powder, and then shut the pumps off for a minute, dust the rock with it, and start seeding the tank for coralline algae. And eventually the lights will go on. So we won't have a lot of coralline growth, obviously. But with the indirect sunlight, I think we'll be just fine. But like I said, I'm not going to rush it. So here we are, well over 15 minutes. Y'all can hit the subscribe button. After you hit the subscribe button, comment if you have any questions, maybe something I missed, something you saw that you want to know about, or if you want to just chew me out for taking almost 20 minutes of your time for a tank that is just in the beginning phase, that's fine too. I just am trying to get in better habit of documenting these aquariums as I do them. I'll try to upload pictures of previous aquariums at the end of this video so you can see my successes and, maybe some of my failures. But again, I appreciate everybody watching, and cheers to the journey ahead.